Woo. Ooh. 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 So many things are vying for our attention. And I don't think they're actively vying for our attention in order to make money off us necessarily. While that is the case, many of the times, many of the cases, in many cases, that is the case in many cases, that is true in many cases. Verbs. How do I even sentence? My point is, a company like YouTube is not doing what they're doing for money. I mean, ostensibly they're doing it for money because, capitalism and all that. But capitalism doesn't offer the opportunity or support the idea of making a company that loses billions of dollars every year. YouTube is not a capitalist entity. YouTube is not profit-motivated entity, is perhaps a better word for it. They are maybe a capitalist entity, but I don't know how you can be not profit-motivated, but also capitalist, unless your flavor of capitalism has some other object, I guess. I'm not even sure how you would word it, how you would describe this. There are a lot of companies that do this. It's that woke capitalism kind of nonsense. And part of it may be, and I truly don't know the numbers on this, and I've heard conflicting things about the numbers on this, but when these companies, quote unquote, get woke and do virtue signaling, they lose money. And whether or not they lose money or gain money in just brand recognition or brand awareness, I don't know. But let's assume for a moment that it is the case that they lose money. If that is happening, these companies are not motivated by market forces anymore. They're motivated by some other type of goal. And if they're motivated by that other goal, then you need to reevaluate pretty much everything about that company. It is possible that these companies have gotten so converged that they are just filled to the brim with HR people who really think that this is the way forward. That literal social justice, that social change is the object of corporation, of Burger King. Burger King is trying to enforce social change or create social change. And by the way, also, hamburgers, I guess. While such a model that eschews the market is not going to be profitable in a capitalist, or does not work in a purely capitalist system, whatever the system is that we have now with this free money, fake money, loans that are covered by the Fed, fractional reserve banking, all this stuff that screws up the value. That's a rough looking crow. That screws up the valuation of money just in general. I mean, the freeness of loans is just, it screws up the market. It allows you to float so many things for so much longer than you would have been able to previously. And this is, credit. It's just credit. And credit doesn't necessarily have value except as debt. And debt is what drives our monetary system, unfortunately. Whether by, one loan at a time, one individual tiny pinprick, or the sword stab of quantitative easing, you're just printing more money. That's all you're doing. Necessarily, you're printing more money. In any fractional reserve banking system, you are taking X amount of real dollars and then turning it into X times 10 amount of dollars. I got mad at the government for quantitative easing, but I didn't realize that tiny pinpricks of quantitative easing were occurring at every bank in America every time they gave out a loan to anyone. All of it is based on the promise of future payment, kicking the can down the road, not paying our own bills, not paying our own way, and necessarily indebting our children. It requires an infinite amount of productivity. And it requires an infinite amount of debt. That's the real kicker. These are the things you get to think about and recognize when you're not consuming distractions. YouTube, as I've mentioned before, is a very heavy distraction for me, and it's a very insidious one in that it is also very useful. It's extremely useful. There's so many things that I can learn that have value outside of transient things. Recently I started looking into rocket stoves, and on YouTube you can learn how to make, I'm a bit of a visual learner, and if it's not visual, I need space in my brain. Like you could describe to me verbally what, oh my word, Jesus help them, Lord. Oh God, Lord Jesus help them. Jesus, healing Jesus. Goodness gracious. You can describe something to me verbally, and as long as I can kind of imagine things in my head and move pieces around and fit them together, that's still semi-visual. I can learn still. But if you write a book, I have some difficulty sitting down and reading. I have had some difficulty, and when I was younger, I didn't have that problem. I was a very heavy reader when I was younger. And part of it is I can listen to audiobooks or listen to YouTube videos at double speed and intake a lot more knowledge in a more efficient manner than I can read. So I cannot read as fast as that. But YouTube is extremely valuable for this because you get, the visual, the auditory, you have examples of how people are putting things together, and all that stuff really sticks in my brain really, really well. So, what would you be doing otherwise? You would be going to a library, or finding a website perhaps particularly related to rocket stoves and learning about different kinds of rocket stoves. Maybe that's more efficient. I don't know. No one seems to have any websites nowadays. I shouldn't say that. I haven't searched particularly hard for any of those types of things, so maybe I should test that before I say that. This kind of feels like no one has any websites these days, which is kind of odd, just because it's so easy to do this stuff nowadays. Well, it's easy for me. I shouldn't say it's easy for everyone, because the more abstract all of this technology gets, the less understanding you require to operate it. If anything, we're becoming more technologically dumber. The simpler you make things, the less you have to know. And that's good in some aspects, but bad in more others, I guess. I guess we can't all be experts at everything, but I suppose that just means that we should be at least technically proficient at the things that are very important or very good multipliers of our will, as technology is, computers are. So I mentioned a while back that there was some change in my value system and my valuation of what things are actually important. One of those things is, the things that are physically important. Shelter, food, warmth, water supply, things that help you, live and stuff. So I want to be able to burn the sticks in my backyard, to heat my cast iron pan, to cook my squirrel casserole, the squirrel that I hunted, and feed my family. That's the kind of thing that should be important to all of us. We're gardening, not super well, but we are. It's official. It's happening. But growing food, harvesting game, being able to prepare the game, the rocket stove, very useful for boiling water in the event that your water is not potable. These are the types of technology that are definitely worth learning, probably for everyone to learn. The thing that I find particularly sublime about the rocket stove is you can make bricks out of pretty much anything. You can usually harvest or salvage bricks from any kind of structure, collapsed structure or whatever, and you can make bricks out of mud and dry them in the sun. And with those bricks, you can go to a place that doesn't have that technology, and you can speak a word or describe or hand a picture to them or show them how to build it, and they will always have that technology. And that technology is super accessible. You just need bricks. You don't even need bricks. You can technically dig one out of the ground if you want. But that's just like pure, I don't know, it's like Tetris. It's like pure logic. It's pure idea. Tetris isn't a video game. Tetris isn't ones and zeros. It's a concept. You could play it with some rocks if you wanted. The rocket stove is a concept. and you can transmit that concept verbally very easily and greatly increase the survivability of lots and lots of people. I don't know. It's just interesting to me.